Good morning, judges and students. When you see someone that's hurt on the ground after a fight, chances are you would want to help them. However, would it make sense for you to help them if the attackers were right there, waiting for you to help him so that they could beat you up? Would it make sense if you knew that the police were going to come and help or aid the victim? Would it make sense to help the victim if you were the one who beat him up? Would any of that make sense? Resolve that the U.S. federal government should significantly reduce the aid it gives to foreign countries after disasters. The affirmative would like to limit the topic to only one type of disaster, social disasters. The affirmative offers definitions for the following words: social disasters, aid, significantly, foreign countries, and altruism. Social disasters are defined as any of the following disasters committed by man: civil disorder, terrorism, and/or war. Aid is defined as help given to a country in the form of money, supplies, and manpower. Foreign countries are defined as any country that is not the United States. Significantly is defined as having or likely having influence and effect, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Finally, altruism is designed as a selfless concern for the welfare of others. Currently, in regards to giving aid to foreign countries after social disasters, the status quo is that the United States is essentially giving aid to every country it has been in a war with, as well as other countries after they have been at the receiving end of a civil war or terrorism. The United States doesn't have a guideline on which countries they should help. The United States should significantly reduce their aid to foreign countries for the following reasons. It is not practical for the United States to give aid to every country after they suffer a social disaster. Other organizations and countries are already helping those nations, and assisting other countries after certain social disasters will lead the United States to suffering a social disaster, and also the aid that the United States gives to countries after social disaster isn't actually effective. It is completely impractical for the United States to donate aid to countries after they have been at the receiving end of a social disaster. It's cliche, it's been stated numerous times, but it's a fact. The United States is in an economic recession and is in a lot of debt, as in around over $7 trillion in debt. How can we as a nation afford to send millions or billions of dollars in aid when we can barely afford to keep our own nation afloat? A more recent example of the United States giving aid to a country after a social disaster was after World War II, when the U.S. helped Germany. According to the Committee on European Economic Cooperation, in an essay called Cost of the Marshall Plan to the United States, an essay written by a member of Harvard University, the Marshall Plan cost the United States $22.4 billion in late 1940, early 1950 currency. According to Dollar Times, an inflation calculator, $1 in 1948, the first year of the Marshall Plan, is now worth about $9.23. So using math and multiplying 22.4 by 9.23, we get a product of around $20,675,200,000. Should the United States donate around $20 trillion in aid to a country that may never even get back on its feet? In fact, according to the United States Agency for International Development, the United States spends around $40 billion a year on aid. That money that we are donating to aid could be used to help our economy. Even when the United States gives aid to foreign countries, there are still problems. As I said earlier, the United States doesn't always give aid to every country after a social disaster. Why is that? This is because of a lack of altruism. The United States only gives aid to countries that could possibly help them in the future, a stance that is inherently immoral. The United States gives aid, but only gives aid to the countries that could potentially benefit them after a social disaster. This situation is similar if you say to your classroom that you're going to give candy to everyone there, but in reality, you only give candy to the attractive students. By going against the resolution, the negative is claiming that it's okay to help only some of the countries, while turning a blind eye to other countries that are suffering from possibly a worse social disaster just because they don't benefit from it. Giving aid to the recipients of social disasters is meant to be a moral benefit from the world, and by picking and choosing, loses its morality. When the United States gives aid to countries, it gives aid to the government. Except for personnel, in that case it just gives it to the people. Money, food, drinks, basic products, all of it goes to the government for distribution. Yet after a social disaster, the government, assuming there even is a government, is under complete disarray. Giving aid to countries after it has suffered a social disaster only impedes the development of that country. Professor S.K.B. Asante of Abuaka State College, a college in Ghana, author of International Assistance and International Capitalism, Supportive or Counterproductive, analyzes aid to the continent of Africa and its effectiveness when he writes, summing up the experience of African countries both at the national and at the regional levels, it is no exaggeration to suggest that, on balance, foreign assistance especially foreign capitalism, has been somewhat deleterious to African development. Evidence available suggests that the forms in which foreign resources have been extended to Africa over the past 25 years, insofar as they are concerned with economic development, are, to a great extent, counterproductive. The fight over who gets aid leads to disarray and possibly even more violence. According to James Shikwati, a Kenyan economist and the director of the Inter-Region Economic Network, aid given to countries after social disasters causes corruption in the government. In an interview with the German magazine, Shikwati explains how the corruption in Kenya after it received aid had undermined the country. A shipment of corn to Kenya was given to politicians who subsequently gave the corn to their own tribes as well as sold the corn on the black market at prices below the market. These low prices undercut the local food producers and deflated the price of corn. Helping other countries after social disasters will only further risk the harm to the United States. Under the definition of social disaster that is being used for this debate, the United States have to give aid to countries that we've just waged war with. Why should the United States have to give aid to a country that fought a war with? Chances are the two countries' relations won't be that good, and with the United States quickly depleting its resources, it will only be a matter of time before the other country strikes back. Thank you, and vote affirmative.